Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to the On the Shoulders of Giants YouTube channel. I am Joseph Ward, and I'm joined by my homies, Mr. Patrick Irvine, Professor Carl Tone Jones, and we are here to celebrate Dr. Runoko Rashidi. Um, his untimely passing occurred this past Monday, and it was a shock to the world. It's definitely a shock to the world, a shock to us all. And we want to make sure, I want to make sure that I take the time to celebrate him and show him and give him his thanks. Of course, I did it when he was here, but once again, give him his thanks for how he helped me and how he contributed to the world, how he contributed to African people all over the world, how he contributed to exposing the African presence around the world. Dr. Rashidi did great work. He did revolutionary work. He did work that was able to build upon the work of scholars like Dr. John Henry Clark, scholars like Dr. Yusuf Ben Yakinen, scholars like J.A. Rogers, right? Being able to build upon the foundations that they set, and not just build upon it, but erect an empire upon the foundations that were set by his predecessors, and erected an empire so efficient that people such as myself are able to pick up the mantle with a great understanding, a greater understanding of who we are, where we come from, and what we've done as African people globally. All right, because I want people to really wrap their minds around what Dr. Rashidi brought to the table, and I just want to open up with this. Um, Before Dr. Rashidi, we had knowledge of individuals around the globe, and we did have a bit of knowledge about cultures and civilizations around the world. But Dr. Rashidi pulled that curtain back even further. Because of Dr. Rashidi, we literally see the faces of the people of today around the world in places like the farthest corners of Asia and in the farthest corners of Europe. He was able to find people who look like my next door neighbors. Like, we're talking about a kind spirit, a gentle spirit, a man who is sure about himself, sure about what he was going to say. He was knowledgeable. He was approachable. Dr. Rashidi was cool, like a down to earth man who really helped me as a historian. Really helped me gain confidence in myself and in my work, and just between Dr. Rashidi, Dr. Browder, Dr. Clark, and Dr. Yusuf Ben Yakinen, Ashra Kwesi, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, I was able to really see how I can use this history to really impact my people outside of just the idea that I had when I was younger of just being a history teacher. Like, if you like history and you have the information, you can only be a history teacher. But because of gentlemen like these, and especially the influence of Dr. Rashidi, I was able to see that we can take this history and we can really use it how we want to use it, but in the best interest of ourselves and our people, to uplift and empower ourselves. So I just want to set the tone right there with what we're doing today. Like I said, I have my brothers Patrick Irvine, Professor Carl Tone Jones in the building. I appreciate y'all for joining me.
Hey man.
Hey, so
that was quite the tribute, to Baba Runoko Rashidi, Dr. Runoko Rashidi. And you know, you were able to in a pretty good time, was you were able to establish a relationship with the elder. And you were able to, y'all built, people could see the interviews, and we know that y'all had agreed to do an interview series prior to his transition. But most people don't really know is that y'all both had conversations off the air. You
Yeah.
know, y'all were building and talking, and y'all got to have those personal conversations. You know, so that probably is more intimate and more revering than what people actually saw on the screen.
Right.
You know, I've often told the story of the one time I met Dr. Runoko Rashidi, and he was, like I said, you know, he he let me know I got a little too close. I didn't give him his room, but he was also, you know, afterwards, you know, he started smiling and laughing, and he, you know, embraced me, and you know, it was a very strong impression. It was a great impression. You know, I had just come from watching one of his presentations at the Locks conference here in Philly a few years ago, and one of the things I noticed it was that, you know, it was like watching um, it was like watching a master teacher. He was a master teacher, but just watching him in his element, you know, teaching the history of Africans all over the world. He was Hidden Colors before the film Hidden Colors. If you want to really think about it like that, he was like the he was the inspiration. Probably him, Dr. Anthony Browder, like you mentioned, all the others, you know, Dr. Ben, you know, I've been Sertima, all those elders and ancestors who, you know, transitioned, you know, they were the foundational. But I think his work was more expansive because he was able to build on the legacies of his jegnas, and he was able to expand past just Africa. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? And you know, he was able to expand to Asia, the Americas, you know, islands in the Pacific. You know, he was able to expand in different places around the world. And it was like watching an orchestra, right? A finely tuned orchestra. He was the conductor doing the presentation, but I was so blown away. You know, I mean, because it was so pristine, precise, and so it just gives. I think it gives a little bit of how much he was really into his work and how his work became his life's blood. And you know how honored I was to see to him say to you that he can see you becoming a part of his legacy and carrying on. It was just crazy because that was like less than a month ago that y'all had that you know what I'm
It
saying?
was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. So you know that's a pretty big honor, brother, that he actually saw that in you and saw enough of you and was impressed because you know when they get that age they can see through people. You know, when they can see through people. They can tell who's interested, who's genuine, and who's just trying to come up. So for a giant like that to you know pour that into you, brother, you know, I'm honored to say that you're my friend and you're my brother, just because he saw that in you. You know, that I was impressed by that.
Man, that honestly, the fact that he even gave me the time of day. Bro, when I tell you, I found Dr. Rashidi over 10 years ago. 6 hours. That was the minimal I used to watch his lectures. That was the minimal time. Like at least 6 hours. Because he was showing these beautiful pictures of people around the world. And so he helped like break like pull back that veil of the Eurocentric images that we really had of our people or different people around the world. So, like I say, being able to see somebody in Southeast Asia or in the South Pacific who looks like your neighbor, who looks like your uncle, that's amazing. but also to really learn about the stories. So, like I said, I found out Rashidi over 10 years ago, and I was just blown away about what he was doing. So when I heard him say he's been to over 135 countries and counting, I'm like, wow. First of all, I had no idea that people were doing things like that. Like I knew about the tours to the Nile and certain tours around certain parts of Africa, but then the idea of him going to that many countries. But then when I found out that he was inspired by J.A. Rogers, I was like, oh shoot. Because I've always saw myself as an extension of J.A. Rogers, Dr. Clark, and Dr. Rashidi. So because I felt like what I was doing was more in line and had more aspects, even though it has aspects of all the historians that I've come across. But I felt like those three were the ones who I kind of really molded myself after. Being J.A. Rogers being able to expose us to so many individuals, African individuals around the world. And then Dr. Rashidi showing us the individuals, they sisters, they brothers, they mothers, the culture, everything associated with it. And so that inspired me. That's what really helped On the Shoulders of Giants, me shape my idea around what I wanted to do with On the Shoulders of Giants and how I wanted to present my information. Because I know Pat and I had a lot of conversations, and Pat, he gonna always ask his questions, always asking why. Well, why you want to do this and why you want to do that? And so, I do like it because it helps make sure you got your stuff together. But also, it just really helped me really wrap my mind around who was inspiring me, and to be able to meet. I was able to meet my hero. I was able to meet. The three of us had this conversation when I was telling you all I wanted to reach out to him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm so thankful that he emailed me back. We were able to connect and we were able to build. The fact that he wanted to come back and do it again, I was like, okay, I might have did something good. But I mean, what I look at it like this, and I am blessed. I am grateful that he took the time out to teach me, to talk to me, to mentor me, to help me. We're talking about a man who is known and loved globally. And I want people to really understand this, how I'm coming at it, how I'm looking at it. This man is known globally. This man has friends in the far reaches of the earth. Scholars and people around the world know this man. And he decided, and he was generous enough and gracious enough to give me his time. Me, Joseph Ward from Tallahassee, Florida. He gave me his time. I am grateful. But what it also did is it lets me know that as I progress on my journey, that I need to be accessible to the younger generation as well. I need to be willing to teach and build and empower those around me and those behind us. Because if we're not reaching out and building, then it's going to fall off. All the work is going to fall off. And I'm happy that he saw enough in me, that he saw something in me that I can be, that he would see me as a torchbearer to the next generation. So I'm happy, man.
Yeah, that's a. Were you about to say something back?
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, I think that's and I think we learn again too, right? Because just like the scholars before him, he wasn't a financially wealthy man. He was rich in terms of what he brought to the world. He was rich in terms of his foundation of knowledge, information. He had a lot of people who he considered brothers, sisters, comrades, or not necessarily, I don't like to use the word comrade, but kinship around the world. But yet and still, I still feel like as a people, we don't give our scholars and the people who give us this this baseline information, this necessary information, this cultural enrichment, this anthropological information. We don't give them their due while they're here, and that's a big issue for me. You know, and I keep thinking about not even because on the different impact, we're talking like I remember when Aretha Franklin was on her deathbed, and I had people that was on 125th Street in Harlem. The Apollo Theater waited until they heard that she died to start playing her music, and everybody was out there celebrating and partying. And I was just so offended by that, because why couldn't you let her hear you play her music? Why couldn't her last memory as she transitioned, why couldn't that be of hearing her music playing as she transitioned to the next realm? Why do we consistently wait until somebody passes on before we start paying tribute to them? And as the, you know, the proverbial saying is, you know, giving them roses, you know what I'm saying, where they can actually smell the roses. It's a very disgusting relationship we have with death culture. When you think about all of the people, you mentioned some people on that list. Dr. Ben was homeless when he died. You know, these are people that were giants. Like the title of your series, On the Shoulders of Giants. These are the giants for which we're on their shoulders. And yet and still, our giants are homeless. Half of them are sleeping in abandoned cars and abandoned buildings. You know, you know, I can think of several others who passed on and didn't have anything after they gave so much for the love of their people, the culture of their people. You know, something has to change in regards to how we regard the word love when it comes to dealing with the giants that are still here.
I think we love, because Doctor, and I can second everything that was said. I remember Joe, I think after that show where he said that, you called me up on 59 million. Like right after the show ended, I want to say like 5-10 minutes after the show ended, you called me up and I saw it and I was hyped too. And I was in the space still hyped, but I couldn't express it. But you were so excited about it that I had no choice but to be excited and give you something. And it was just amazing because the entire time you were working with the entire time you're working with him, you were on a different level of, like, Joe is always the excited one of the three of us. We do a lot of talking offline. We do a lot of building, planning, and discussion about how we're gonna do things. I know y'all rarely see us all in the same space, but we do a lot of talking offline. And you know, Joe's always the excited one, but during this period of time, it was like up a notch. Like he was extremely happy, and you know, even whatever I could do to support, I would always tell him whatever I could do to support you and the good doctor, I'm down to do that. Editing videos or whatever it takes. But for me, this man, I can truly say he made the diaspora. He personalized it. Like you guys were saying, like we talk about the diaspora all of the time, you know, the black diaspora, the different diasporas of African people all over the world, diaspora 1, diaspora 2, this, that, and the third. But he was the only person I knew of that was actually doing the work in this current day and age. I'm not saying he was the only person. I'm saying he was the only person I knew of that was doing the work in this day and age of making that personal for people. This is what these people look like. It's not just they exist and they black. No, this is what they look like.
Right.
But then to PC's point, I agree wholeheartedly. Like we are in a very bad habit culturally of not supporting people while they're here to enjoy the support. Um, it's sad to say, and I feel really bad thinking about it, but if he were to have a seminar now, an online presentation now after he's passed, I bet you it would sell out. I bet you it would sell out. And I know there are going to be a lot of people talking about they love him and this, that, and the third, and maybe they do in their own way. But we do have to turn a corner and make sure that these people understand their value and their impact to us before they transition. 100%. I don't know how we turn that corner, but it is absolutely a corner that we need to turn because there is no way possible that this man should move on or transition with any shadow of a doubt as to how his people feel about him and how much he is loved and celebrated and enjoyed, even by those that don't follow his work extremely close. They still know the name. And I've never heard anybody say any bad thing about him or his information. Never. You know how hard it is to find somebody that you can't find nobody to speak bad of? In this day and age where people can find out that you cursed out your first grade teacher in 1938, like nobody ever said anything bad about this man, and I think that speaks to the character that he presented, and the authenticity of who he was, both in his presentations
And in
and
life.
in the information that he dug up and presented. But
Yeah.
yeah, we got to do better about showing love.
Yeah, we had those conversations about support. He knew who was supporting him and he knew who wasn't. So he was very aware of that because we had those conversations. Um, and of course we had, and I told you too, we had the conversation. Dr. Rashid and I had the conversation about us three using our collective force to help him and further his mission as well. And so I know for us, and do want to say this, but the mission continues.
Mm-hmm.
The mission continues. We will not let Dr. Rashidi's work and effort die. And I say this: I was watching a IG live with Baba Kaba Kamane, and he had a brother on, brother Axel or something. I can't remember the brother's name. I don't want to butcher the brother's name, but shout out to the brother because he gave a great presentation, like a visual tour of some of the pyramids and the Sphinx in Egypt. But he said one thing that I never really thought about, but it was profound. And I think we all really need to understand this. What Dr. Rashidi was doing, he was putting his life on the line,
Mm-hmm.
traveling around the world to the far corners of the world and putting his life on the line, doing something that was could be considered dangerous to a lot of people, going to places, going to countries, and a lot of places where black people may or may not be accepted. He talked about once getting kidnapped and held hostage,
Mm.
right? But he kept going. But he kept going. What he was doing it was dangerous, had elements of danger to it, but he didn't let it deter him. He kept going. And in that, one of the things, he was big on Garveyism, he was big on Pan-Africanism. And he was the because he taught he did a his last webinar, because he did we did our presentation on the Africans fighting back from enslavement. We did that. He did his two webinars. Then his last live was with Hoppy Talks. Him and the brother Taki and the sister Felicia. That was his last live presentation with Hoppy Talks. But that in that presentation, in those webinars he gave, And if you missed the webinars, you missed some good stuff. But he was giving the webinar on the Saturday, he was giving information and bigging up and giving reverence to Pan-Africans. So people like Dr. Clark, like Marcus Garvey, Stokely Carmichael, our ancestors who pushed Pan-Africanism. But he needed to add himself into that. Because the ultimate Pan-Africanism, he traveled around the globe to make sure that people knew that African people existed around the world. And when in talking to these people in these far corners of the world, these people told him, we are African people. He was linking African people around the world. If that's not Pan-Africanism, I don't know what it is. It's literal foot on the ground Pan-Africanism. That's what Dr. Rashidi was doing. And he loved Black women. He loved Black women. In the webinar, he was talking about, somebody asked a question about, what was his thoughts about our ancestors who fought for Black people but married white women? And he was like, he's not going to criticize, but for him, he loves Black women. So he always talked about his love and his adoration for Black women. And that's something, looking up to him, because I definitely look up to him. So looking up to him, seeing how authentic he was in his word. And he was a man of his word. If he said he was going to do something, he did it. He was about Pan-Africanism. He was about feet on the ground Pan-Africanism. And he loved Black women. These are things to be able to look up to. These are things that you pass on to future generations to make sure that we are giving our best. He gave us his best. He gave us his all. The mission continues. The history continues. The teaching continues. It doesn't stop because Dr. Rashidi transitioned. Dr. Rashidi left us so much. He gave us a lot. And it's up to us to make sure we continue the mission. And also building with our elders who are still here. I want to say this real quick. I want to share my screen because show you how to be able to support. So coming up, so you can contribute to help honor the legacy of Dr. Rashidi. So this is to help for the funeral and to get his body back to America. You can support via Cashapp at CarolStrong2000, PayPal CarolStrong@gmail.com, or PayPal.me/CarolStrong2000, Zelle CarolStrong2000@gmail.com, or you can mail checks and money orders to P.O. Box 47479, Los Angeles, California 90047. And I'll leave this for a minute so you can get the information, but this should be a no-brainer. It's enough of us. Let's support. Let's do what we need to do. Let's make sure we are uplifting, empowering, supporting our people, supporting our scholars, but let's make sure we contributing as well to make sure we love this man. This man did a lot for us. Let's not let him down. He didn't let us down. Y'all want to add anything? I think you were about to say something, Pat. My bad. I kept talking.
I wasn't. I think that was PC.
Oh, my bad. Go ahead, PC.
No, I really can't. I mean, you pretty much said it all, Joe. I mean, his legacy is up for us to carry on the mantle of showing the connectivity of African people all around the world. The irony is that how similar, like it's a little kind of eerie, how similar his mission was with building the diaspora through Pan-Africanism by connecting those dots on a grassroots level to how Malcolm X was connecting those dots with the dignitaries of those countries all around the world to form Black Nationalist Pan-African Coalition. Seeing that particular aspect of it, and it's like one person, they're both working on the same mission, but they're both going about it two different ways, but they're both in collaboration, hoping to get the same results. You know what I'm saying? And to see that work, it's crazy that we don't respect that until somebody's passed on. And it's like almost like how we treat family anymore, right? It's an event coming up, or I can't make it, I'm too busy, this, that, and the other, but everybody can show up to the funeral. You know what I'm saying? Everybody makes time to show up to the funeral. We got to get better at I just want to really press upon that. We got to get better at recognizing those. After seeing this, I got to call Baba Smalls up now, because I got to check, I got to talk to him now to make sure that one of my elders is okay. Somebody I perceive to be a Jegna is okay, and figure out, ways to sort of like make sure that he doesn't fall in the same situation. Not talking about the pants and on part. I'm talking about people giving him his roses while he's here. It's funny when you mentioned about Baba Rashidi, Runoko Rashidi being kidnapped. I had a similar conversation with Professor Smalls a few months ago about what happened to him, as all these different alphabet agencies were chasing him all over the world. This is dangerous work that people put in. The scholars, the educated, they weren't just scholars, they were actually warriors who happened to bring the information back home. But they were actually out here getting it done. They weren't sitting behind a keyboard, they weren't sitting behind the screen somewhere. They were actually getting the work done. And that's something that we really need to take heed to in regards to the work from this point forward. And like you said, that was some dangerous stuff, because every time he took a picture somewhere, he was unveiling the dirty little secrets of white supremacy, global white supremacy.
Not to cut you off, but I want to say this. One of the things I loved about him, put Dr. Rashidi loved museums, and he loved taking pictures. You put Dr. Rashidi in the museum, and you be like, "Hey, you can't take pictures." All right, we gonna get these pictures. My people getting these pictures. I don't care about y'all little rules. My little quick picture, because somebody asked him about that, and I was like, "Well, how do you get so many pictures when you go into museums and they tell you that you can't take pictures?" He's like, "Well, I don't have my camera. I have my phone, and I just get it and go on about my business." I was like, you gotta love it. My bad. Go ahead.
No, but I've been saying you might as well. It is not. Going back to the Black Panther movie, when the young brother Killmonger was in the museum, and he said, "Well, listen, y'all stole all this shit, so it ain't like you really have license or nothing." He's like, "I'm gonna take that off." You know what I'm saying? So, that's basically repatriating those images and getting it back. You know what I'm saying? So hey, I ain't got listen, hey. All right, Doc. You know what I mean?
I want to give a shout out to all the people in the comments: Aaron Thompson, Shura M, my man Juanito, Rashid Rourke, Kote, Crow. I'm gonna give a shout out to y'all. I appreciate y'all comments and tuning in. Yes, Dr. Rashidi was well loved and respected man. I just want to make sure I want to make sure that the legacy is carried on, but not just him, but the energy is carried on. This energy that we're having right now, that we're showing, this love energy. Remember, we still have scholars who are still here doing the work. Still, Professor Anthony Browder, his ASA project that he's doing, he needs our support. Baba Kaba Kamene needs our support. Baba James Smalls needs our support. Baba Hunter Adams needs our support. Like, it's so many. Taki Grant with Happy Talks needs our support. However you feel about Tariq Nasheed, he's putting together a African History Museum or something like that. Needs our support. Like, our people need our support. Our scholars, Queen Afua, needs our support. Claude Anderson needs our support. Like, we need to be supporting these people. Like, it should be no doubt, right? It should be no second thoughts. These are the people who are feeding us our information, our culture, our connections to our ancestors. And in order for us to effectively carry it on, we need to make sure we're supporting them, because if we can, if they have the resources they need, they can give us as much as possible. And we're not trying to take everything from them, but they can give us as much as possible. Our scholars are out here doing exceptional work and leaving great legacies, and we need to make sure that we are boots on the ground, support it like you support your favorite rappers. Support it like you support your favorite singers. Support it like you support your favorite movies. Support it like you support your favorite other stuff. Because think about it. What are we? Think about where we would be. Think about where we would be without our scholars. Think about where we would be without a lot of this information. We would still be believing a lot of the bull that this crazy system in society is telling us. Think about it. We're already complaining about critical race theory. Oh, they don't want to teach our history in the schools. Well, teach it in your homes. We got the information. We have the information. It's so easy today. All you got to do is go to YouTube and click play, and you can learn. I used to sit there and watch these scholars 6 hours minimal. I learned a lot, and then go get the books. Dr. Rashidi has a plethora of books. Go buy his books. Go buy the books for all our scholars. These should be ones that's dominating our libraries. Forget these other people. You buy their stuff later. Get our scholar stuff now. When everybody talk.
I want to add to that real quick. I want to add both of y'all to that list, Professor, with the Independence Day project and many other projects to come. And then I want to add, Joe, you got your 3 books, this On the Shoulders of Giants series, the show. And then I want to qualify one of the things you said. Because you said go to YouTube and press play. We live in the age where you gotta be more specific than that, Joe.
Go to YouTube, find our scholars, and press play.
Can't leave that
by
like
anything. Find our scholars. Have a list of scholars. And speaking of a list,
hold up, real quick.
Go ahead.
No, you ain't gotta apologize, because I'm gonna ask you to qualify that statement too. You said a list of our scholars. It's a lot of people trying to be under that umbrella. That shouldn't be there.
So I have a list, and this is not a complete list, but this is a list of a lot of the scholars who I'm familiar with, whose work I've studied, and there's plenty more. And what I do know is, looking at and learning about these scholars, you're going to learn about a lot more. So let me share this, because I do want y'all. I want to at least leave some breadcrumbs for some other scholars that can be supported. Oh, hold on, I ain't do it right. All right. So
my dude got a full-on PowerPoint.
What? Old school.
Straight up on them.
In my opinion, these are scholars, historians that we need to be studying. That's a great start. J.A. Rogers, Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Yusuf Ben Yakinen, Ashford Kwesi, Ivan Van Sertima, George G.M. James, Chancellor Williams, John G. Jackson, Dr. Runoko Rashidi, and I'll come back to it. Arturo Alfonso Schomburg, Kaba Hiawatha Kamene, Professor Baina Bello, Professor Anthony Browder, Taki Grant, Professor James Smalls, Dr. Chiki Akua, Dr. Wade Nobles, Dr. Asa Hilliard. And like I said, it's not a complete list, but it's a list of scholars that you can start from. You can add Queen Afua to that. You can add Dr. Claude Anderson to that. Who else? Who else? I'm trying to think. Who else?
Dr. Francis Cress Wilson.
Right.
While he's still alive, you can talk about
Professor Smalls.
The author of this book. Dr. Elder Neely Fuller.
Dr. Neely Fuller.
Yes.
Oh,
yes. Neely Fuller is still alive. So yes.
So we have and he's the reason we use the term racism, white supremacy today. There are a lot of people, and everybody on that list is credible, and that's an excellent way to start. I mean, Baba Schomburg has his own library in New York. I've been in that library several times. It has library/bookstore in Harlem. It's actually considered the greatest work of African and Black literature in the world. Not Timbuktu. So that's a great way to start. And I would just say, listen, man, we really need to think about where we invest our time and money, man, because people invested their time and money in vacations, and people get mad like, why are you hating? I'm not hating them, but there has to be a time when we, get to the point where we start preserving our elders, but preserving our legacies, preserving our creating and being foundational and intentional about institutions. When I look at other communities, they take time out and they have fundraiser activities. They have scholarships and programs where they donate monthly to restore the legacies and cultures of their exhibits, their own museums, things of that nature. We have to get to that point where we start prioritizing those things. And I think about that when I think about and me and Pat was talking about this. There's this group called the Daughters of the Confederacy, right? And the Daughters of the Confederacy are still in existence to this day, which shocked the hell out of me. But they were the ones who were responsible for all those monuments in the South, all after the Civil War and Reconstruction era. They were the ones for restoring that whole thing of Southern pride with the Confederacy and so forth. And they were the ones who created that, like I said, they were responsible for all the monuments, the museums, the literature, and restoring the culture of the Confederacy in the South. They're the primary reason why they call it the War of Northern Aggression. So if we need to put together organizations like that to start restoring the history in our communities, or just not just restoring, but maintaining the foundations like that. That's, the next step in terms of, procuring our history, specifically at a time when censorship is going on and you got teachers being sued for teaching Black history and the ills of slavery in their classrooms, like in Tennessee, and in the history books in Texas, they don't even use the word slavery anymore, from what I understand. So, all these different things, not to say we have a slave culture, slave history, but it's important to understand that you can't erase those parts of our history. And it's up to us to make sure that we're able to identify our history, identify our culture through anthropology, through the works of Dr. Runoko Rashidi and others of his ilk, those who are still alive doing the work, Professor Anthony Browder and his daughter, who are still over there doing the work.
Hey, PC.
Yes, sir.
You sound like you turning into Megatron.
Oh, I'm getting distorted. Hold on, man. Hold on. I gotta check, man. Hold on, man. Because sometimes
you sound fine now.
Yeah, sometimes, man, my computers play, the cords play games with me. I must have been saying some real stuff for them to make me transform.
So real quick, do want to once again thank you to everybody in the comments. Baba Heru in the comments is telling the story about how he was on the tour group with Dr. Rashidi, had over 200 people, and when another tour group heard him speaking and heard him teaching, they left their tour and went with his tour, and the people got mad and turned the lights off on them. So everybody, he said, so we all turned our cell phone lights, and the tour continued. Said Elder Baba Renoko, please. So that's so cool, man. That's what one thing about I loved about him is he was sure of who he was. He was matter of fact, and if he was gonna do something, he was gonna stand on it. And it is what it is, and he's not gonna mix his words. And it was matter of fact. And yes, like everybody who was able to go on tour with him, Millie S. Brown is talking about. She went on a tour with him in 2011. One of the best trips she's ever taken. I bet it was. Like those are the memories. Cherish those memories. We literally was able to experience the presence of a true Titan. He said he actually wanted to make history. And he did. He made history. He is a pioneer. He opened up a lane. He opened up doors. He opened up a realm. He opened up our minds. He unlocked our minds. So now when we think about it, you got people going to other countries looking for Black people now. They're not just going to the country just, hey, look at the regular people we see in the magazines. They like, nah, I want to go to where the Black people stay, because Dr. Rashidi told us that you go to India. He developed a connection with the Dalit community in India. He had so many connections within the community, the Dalits in India, on over to the people in South Pacific in the Melanesian islands. Like I had a brother email me he talked about being able to connect with Dr. Rashidi. He said he spent time in Melanesia, and he offered to give more information about Melanesia. And I appreciate that. But that just lets you know the strength of where he went. Like Pat said, Dr. Rashidi was loved around the world. Wherever he went, he made a friend. He's one of those people who he never met a stranger, and he always left meeting a new friend. Because of, how he was a man who was sure of himself, an African who was proud to be African. He told you, I'm an African, and I'm proud to be an African. And if you got a problem with that, that's your fault. That ain't my fault. So that's something. But that's what. Those are the things I want to teach my son. Those are the things. Those are the men I wish I see in my community on a regular basis. So when you get a chance to experience somebody like that, you got to treasure it.
Well, it's going to be up to us to be those men. That's how we continue the legacy. It's going to be up to us to, take that same. And is it my mic causing feedback? I want to make sure that I'm not the one causing feedback over here. I hear a little feedback, and I don't want to do that to the broadcast. But
I don't hear any feedback.
Okay, that's cool then. If y'all don't hear it, then it's great. But in regards to that whole idea, because it takes a real man to be able to walk into certain places that you're uncertain about, the outcome. You're uncertain about how this encounter is going to go, and that's one of the things that I took from. Like I said, my meeting with him, he was, he was very stern about giving him his space. And he kind of peeked. It was funny, right? Because he sat down, got himself together, and he kind of looked at me out the side of his eye. I was like, all right, come on over here and let me talk to you, young man. And he started laughing. And it was funny because, like I said, I tell the story all the time. I didn't take it personal. I felt like, oh, damn, I overstepped my bounds. Like I was in the wrong. I accepted it. And when I started talking to him and he warmed up to me, it was like talking to one of my uncles.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was like talking to somebody, and it wasn't just come here and buy my, this, that, and the other, I did buy a CD. I did buy one, but it was more so let's have this conversation. Let's talk about this, and he was willing to talk as long as I was willing to talk. That was the, I didn't feel rushed off or anything. And like I said, I was still blown away from the presentation because of how, eloquent and beautiful it was put together. All he was missing was a light show. You know, you know,
Some aliens coming out the sky.
yeah, right. You know, prancing horses and shit walking across the stage. But basically, you know, but it was just like so eloquently put together, and it speaks to like I said, it spoke to his professionalism. You know what I'm saying? The way he did it. It spoke to his professionalism. And then, you know, from other stories you hear, you know, similar to the one you read, you know, from Baba Haru in the chat, you know what I'm saying? You know, his professionalism, you know, other people, when they don't carry themselves that way and they got a sloppy work ethic, you stand next to the professional job. It's like what Elijah Muhammad used to say, you put that clean water next to a dirty glass of water and let the people decide. People decided and they turned the lights off on them. You know what I mean? but you still got it, right?
They kept going.
Hey, kept going.
Kept going.
Oh man, yeah. Though the webinars, man, them webinars are so cool. Like, cause you know you on Zoom, so you know you on Zoom, you scroll through the screens and see who's all in there. There was this. Well, that's what we do on Zoom, Patrick. But now, what was cool though, you had people of all ages. So I don't remember the young lady's father's name, but it was a young girl named Shiloh and her father, and they were at every webinar, had a pen and pad, taking notes. So you had this young girl from, you know, so people age ranges from this young girl to elders like Dr. Rosalind Jeffries and all of respected elders, just people that I'm talking about, people who are staying up 3-4 in the morning because they're in London and they want to catch the webinars. So he go through his information in the webinars and he give time for the Q&A and he ask questions and he take the time, and if he didn't know, he said, I don't know. But if he knew it, he gave you the information. And it was just, it was beautiful, especially like for me as a historian myself. It's, I guess one of the ways I would explain it is like from an athletic standpoint, like when Kobe Bryant got a chance to see Michael Jordan in person, you know, but it's just being able to watch a master teacher be a master at his craft, but be so human at the same time. And that's one of the things I loved about him is he allowed me to humanize him and he humanized himself. And so being able to build a true relationship with him, and that's what we were doing, building a real relationship rather than a relationship based off of me just trying to pedestalize him, because he wasn't going to allow that. Mm-hmm. He was like, and one thing he was big on is making sure you understood as the other person, you understood what you brought to the table, because he like, I'm not gonna mess with anybody, but you need to understand what you bring to the table too. So I appreciate that. And that's something, another lesson learned is making, but it goes back to a leadership training I took a while ago, making sure you pour into people, but helping people help themselves and stretch themselves and become the best versions of themselves. That's what leaders do. That's what elders do. That's what our people that we look up to. He's an icon. He's a global African icon, and his work will never ever be forgotten, because of him. Once again, because of him, we are fully aware of the faces and the people of the African diaspora.
Ashe.
So, yeah.
You know, the funny part about that is, I remember when you was telling us about you finally had booked Baba Rashidi for a show, and I was just becoming aware about how much you were impressed by him. And me and Pat had a conversation, and in the conversation, I said to Pat, I hope that this goes well, because it's something about when we meet our heroes, that shit can go left.
Yeah. I had that conversation with Joe.
Yeah, we had that conversation. Yeah. But it was cool. It wasn't what I expected, but not in a bad way. It was it was different for what I expected in a good way because of just how cool he is. What's up, brother? What's up? What you got going on? And it's just like it's like I'm able to really connect with him. I'm not looking at him like just mesmerized, like, oh my God. It's all right, I'm a human being just like you. How you doing, my brother? What's going on? Yes, I'm an exceptional person now. I'm
Right.
extraordinary, but I'm a regular human being. But what it was showing is you too can be the greatest version of yourself if you pursue your stuff, improve yourself, don't quit, get around the right people, do what you need to do for yourself. Find great mentors because he talked about being mentored by Ivan Van Sertima and Dr. Clark. You know, people that he looked up to, and that's another thing I was thinking about. Like, wow, this man was mentored by Dr. Clark and Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, and he talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Tallahassee, Florida. The USA grocery store right down the street. They look country outside, and he talking to me. I was like,
Hey,
man,
you gonna stop down in Tallahassee, Florida, like that?
I'm not down to tell it. I'm just saying it look country outside.
I mean, I agree with you, but you can't do that. Like I do that because I'm not there no more. You still there? You can't do that.
But that's one of the things that I'll never forget, and I always cherish about our interactions is the fact that he actually takes the time out to interact with others and help the next generation because he wanted to make sure that others can carry the mantle,
I,
and
Mhm.
I
I'm
think
proud to have known.
I think that speaks to his character though, because that saying that you don't, meeting your hero is that negative attribute to that saying. Like it's there for a reason. A lot of people meet their heroes and are devastated by for whatever reason by it.
Mhm.
Um, but this man, you got a chance to meet him, and it might have made your view of him even better.
It did.
Mhm.
It's not a lot of people in the world that can have that impact where you meet them, you already had a high view of them, you meet them, and they exceed your expectations in ways that you didn't even expect them to exceed it. Like it's not just like they were more of what you thought they were better than you thought they would be in aspects and in ways that you didn't even consider that they would be this way. And you get out of those relationships things that you didn't even realize you needed in a relationship. Like, wow, I really needed somebody to maneuver this way. I didn't even know I needed that.
Right.
So that's huge. That's huge. I mean he'll be missed. He'll be missed. He'll be missed. He's been missed already.
Mhm.
And that will continue to grow as time goes on.
Yeah.
And his work spreads and impacts more and more people. The sensation of missing somebody in that lane doing what he did at the level that he was able to do it at, there's gonna be a hole there. But not for too long, cause Joe, I that's I agree wholeheartedly. We've been talking even before you met him. So that was already the lane you were headed in. But now
Mhm.
I think meeting him is definitely, you've got a chemistry going on right now, and you've got a certain thing going on underneath you right now that I think is pushing you even further and pulling you even harder in that direction. I definitely see you stepping up and filling that void along with several other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. I think Dr. Rashidi did a better job. Well, I think he left a better legacy as far as people to carry the torch on than he may have believed. Because I know he talked about he wish he would have really kind of, I guess, specifically named the successor, but there are more people like me out here who were inspired by Dr. Rashidi and others who are in the similar lane. And so I know, and that's why I've always said we will continue the mission. And I'll say it again, we will continue the mission because I am one of many people. Once again, going back to the IG live that I saw with Kava Kamene, and I think the brother Axel, I don't want to butcher his name, but I know he talked about having conversations with Dr. Rashidi and talking about being able to carry on the legacy. So that just ensured what I already felt inside. There are more people like me, black people, African people like me around the world who Dr. Rashidi inspired, and we will carry the legacy on. The mission will continue. We will continue to teach our people because it's our job to uplift and empower our people, and we will continue it. And the torch will not burn out. It will continue to burn because um, the spirit of Dr. Rashidi, the legacy of Dr. Rashidi will live on. His voice, his words, his presence, everything he brought to the world. He literally inspired people around the world and he made history. And Dr. Rashidi definitely, he gave us his all and he will be missed, but he will live on.
Sure.
Yes, sir. So, um, you're on mute, but okay. Um, yes, we definitely do need to reach our youth, TN. We definitely need to reach our youth, and that's I know that's one of the main things I do here at On the Shoulders of Giants. My information is designed for our youth and our adults. Um, so I don't want to just ramble on. So I do want to
Well,
be respectful of these gentlemen's time. But go ahead, PC.
well, one thing I can say is for people who are interested and for seeing Baba Rashidi's legacy continue through you, they can start by hitting up your super chat and putting a couple dollars in. And I'm not saying that from the perspective of you know anything else then show your love and appreciation. It's time for us to start investing in those people who are going to be the legacy bearers. We're already seeing a situation where we have to contribute to a fund to bring Baba Rashidi home, even though I think he was home when he transitioned in Africa. But we're seeing the effort to bring him home. This is how you show people, you give people their roses to smell while they're alive. You know what I'm saying? So for everybody in the chat that's currently there, put a couple dollars on the Cash App to my brother Joe for putting this program together this evening and allowing you to express your gratitude for Dr. Runoko Rashidi and the things that he's done. And I'm just saying that's just how we start. You know what I'm saying? We do too much of this and we don't do enough of this. So that's all I'm gonna say about that part.
I appreciate it. But I will say, well, thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you, y'all two brothers, for rocking with me. And I'll be calling y'all up. Hey, man, y'all wanna get on the YouTube with me? Y'all always tell me yes. So I appreciate it. Let's all make sure we continue to learn our history, access the information that our scholars have left. Um, like even on the webinar with Dr. Rashidi, I actually learned about historians and scholars I had no idea existed. And one of the things I know I was going to ask him about that because he had a list of them. I was going to ask him about that list. I didn't get a chance to do, but I'm just going to have to do my research. But um, let's learn about our information. Let's spread it. Let's not expect our enemies to educate us and our youth. We have the scholars, we have the information. We don't need nobody else to do it for us because we're already here, and our elders have already laid the path. So um, I want to close this out by saying, rest in peace, rest in power, Dr. Rashidi. We love you. We appreciate you. You inspired us. You empowered us. And we're going to continue your legacy. And we're going to continue the work that you started and make sure that our youth know who they are and love being African. So with that being said, I'll say to everybody, and we'll see y'all next time.